So that was a woman who was in the program that I trained with, and she created that video, which I think was very sweet and a nice way to introduce it to folks if you want to share what it is. Yeah.
I showed that to all my K2 students, and they loved it. They loved
nice.
hearing, because we've been doing breathing. We started every guidance class with breath, and they were like, because it was kids talking, they really, really reacted to it, even the little ones.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, good to give them those voices. There's actually a woman who ended up making like a mindfulness book with her class. And so, on the one hand, we can show them what's happening out there, and then there's motivation to really learn and embody this stuff when you're creating a product. So it's kind of a cool way of spinning it. Make your own video or make your own book.
Erica, what was the name of that video?
Just breathe. It's on mindfulschools.org's website. And they have actually quite a few really great videos. They have demo lessons of teachers actually doing this work in their classroom, or you can go to Victor's because it sounds amazing. Yeah. So I also, to show sort of the other end of the spectrum, last year I ended up doing this work mostly in high schools. It just was the way that it worked out. And these were a couple of quotes from my high school students that I just thought were so wonderful. And this was a group in an alternative ed program, not at their real school, and also some resistance in the beginning. So I say that to encourage you that if this is something you decide you want to bring forth and the kids are not immediately on board, that does not mean it will not ultimately prove to be valuable. So one student said, I use mindfulness when I'm upset to avoid overthinking. I use mindfulness when I'm in a game to stay calm and in the moment. I use mindfulness when eating Skittles. We did a mindful eating activity. I use mindfulness when in a hostile situation. Mindfulness has honestly changed me completely for the better. This was a student who was pretty standoffish in the beginning, and I handed him an article about the Lakers meditating. And I think that was like the first moment where he could conceive of this being something that was useful to him. So really connecting with what is the thing that will make my students feel like this is something that's useful to them. And then a second student said, the way I use mindfulness training is usually when I'm angry. Whether I'm stressed out, sad, happy, I use this technique to slow down and pinpoint tranquility in me. So just some really nice thoughts from these students. And this was just at the end, I think, of 8 weeks of going in for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. In terms of the quantitative data, they are starting to do more research in this field of mindfulness on young people. There's a lot of research about the impact on adults. There's not a lot of research yet on what's happening in classrooms, but there is some, and the field is growing, and it's very promising. So some of these studies are showing that mindfulness can help with anxiety, ADHD symptoms, aggression and oppositional behavior, and depressive symptoms, decreasing those, increasing calmness and relaxation, resilience, well-being, focus, executive functioning, empathy, all these things that we really hope for our students. And the body of research is ever growing. So take it for what it's worth. It's promising. They are small-scale studies. Okay, students. On your page, you flip over for a minute, and we'll come back to the brain structure, so we use that as part of the lesson. When we teach mindfulness, there are a lot of different ways people structure this, but I think there are 3 pretty core components, particularly with older students. So younger students sort of tend to buy in a little bit more easily, but with older students especially, we need the why. Why are we doing this weird thing? What is the relevance to me? And I've talked a little bit about that as we go. So thinking about who are my students, who am I, and what's important to me, and then how can I connect those 2 things to offer them information that might be compelling is like a really good way to start thinking about how am I going to share mindfulness with students. The practice, so what am I doing, is another piece to think about. Maybe it's my senses that I'm going to have them anchored to, a physical sensation, We do work with emotions and thoughts that we're not going to have a lot of time today to talk about. That gets a little bit more into it, but that's a great place to have students sort of figure out what's going on emotionally for them. Interconnectedness. And then there's this whole other piece of creating or noticing feelings of gratitude and compassion. So all those can be places where we practice. And then finally, the debrief. So those are what I would say are the three major components when we're working with students. And again, those debrief questions, making sure we're normalizing whatever came up for students and using questions that you feel like are applicable. You don't always have to have students answer verbally. I had my high school group always just write right after we did a practice together, whatever happened for them. You can do drawing, journaling, art projects, whatever it is, some way of sort of communicating about what that experience was like can be nice. So those are the three components. And I just want to model through one time what that might look like. So I'm going to hand out an example of a lesson plan and actually create. So that's just a write-up of what I'm going to do. We can put it to one side for a minute and I'll demo it for you. And then you'll have it with you so you have a sense of what one might look like. So if I walk into a classroom, I might start here. I have a question. I want you to raise your hand in response to this question. How many of you here have a brain? Good. Most of us. I'm glad that that's true. I want to talk to you today a little bit about your brain. There are three major parts of the brain. It's really important to understand our brain so that we can be the best humans possible. Okay? What I want you to do is make a fist with your hand, tuck your thumb inside of that fist. Cool. All right. The lower half of your brain is called the brainstem, and right underneath that is the cerebellum. Okay? So you've got your little model of your brain here. All of those parts of your brain are responsible for things like your heart rate, your breathing, the things that we don't have to think about that happen anyway, right? We share those with reptiles. So it's called the reptilian part of our brain, actually. Right underneath our fingers, if you lift those up, is the limbic system, the mammalian brain, and this part is responsible for helping keep us safe. If you point to your thumb, and just put your finger there for a minute, that's the amygdala. And right alongside the thumb is the hippocampus, or right alongside the tip, rather. So the amygdala is scanning the environment once every quarter of a second, making sure we're safe at all times. The hippocampus is retrieving memories and storing memories, and it works in consort with the amygdala. They work together. They're buddies. Okay? Sitting top of all of that, so you can bring your fingers down, is the cortex. And right up front, and actually go ahead and put your hand on your forehead, that's where your prefrontal cortex is. And that is the part of your brain, you're welcome to take your hand down, that's responsible for things like learning, planning, making good decisions, all of these things. Okay? So all of the parts of our brain, those three parts, are always talking to one another, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. However, if we get activated, if something stressful happens to us, we start to lose access to our prefrontal cortex. We literally cannot think straight. We function from only down here. Okay, so we can refer to that as just flipping our lids when something is really stressing us out. What does stress feel like in your body? Real question. What does stress feel like in your body? When you think about when I'm stressed, what are some of the symptoms of that you might experience? Yeah?
Anxiety.
Yeah, and what does anxiety feel like? Like, where is it? What's that?
Nervousness.
Nervous, yeah. Where?
Tension. Yeah.
Heart rate goes up.
Tension, heart rate goes up.
Tightness.
Tightness, anyone else get tightness sometimes when they're nervous? What about anger?
Shallow breathing.
Shallow breathing.
Shoulders go up.
Shoulders go up. Hot. Yeah. All of these things are very unpleasant to experience in our bodies. They do them for a reason. So when our body flips the lid, it goes into this fight, flight, or freeze mode. Okay? So our body goes into a mode where it's trying to protect ourselves from whatever is happening. Now, if that was a real physical threat and we had to run away, or we had to fight, or we had to freeze so it didn't see us, this would be a very useful adaptation. Yeah? If we were little cavemen and women living back in the day, and there were predators that we had to protect ourselves from, we want that reaction so that we can be safe. However, a lot of the things that happen now that create that anxiety for us are non-predatory, are non-life-threatening, but our bodies still react to them like we are going to die, right? So when you sit down with a test for high schooler students, maybe it's SATs, for elementary school students, maybe it's just one of the standardized tests that happen in this state, your body responds to that moment, literally it thinks it's gonna die. If that anxiety, that feeling comes up for you, that's what's happening. And there are ways that we can train our bodies and train our minds to cope with that, to bring ourselves down a little bit, so that we can think clearer. Because if we said, when we get into that state, our prefrontal cortex is no longer accessible, do you think we're going to do well on those tests?
No.
Not really, right? You guys want to try a little practice and see how it feels? Check it out?
Yeah.
All right. Let's try it. We're going to do a body scan. And just stay comfortable however you are. If you want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. Otherwise, you can just bring your gaze down so you're not distracted by folks around you. And actually, since we're students, go ahead and turn all your chairs to face forward. All right, so eyes can be closed or down. And I'd like you to start by just bringing your focus down into your feet. And see if you notice any sensations there, maybe pressure or tingling. And up into the legs. Just check in with what's going on right now. And the hips. Check in with the belly. Again, just taking stock. And bring the focus all the way up the back. Into the shoulders. If you notice yourself holding on to anything there, just set the intention to let it go. You don't need to hold it. And come down the arms into the hands. And slowly back up to the forearms. Biceps and triceps. Check in with the neck. And the face. On your next inhale, I want you to squeeze your fist really tightly. And then exhale and release the hands. And try it again. Squeeze the fist tight. Inhale. Exhale, release. And see if you can pay attention to all of your body at once, from the head to the toes. And when you're ready, you can open the eyes.